What do you do if even that suggested bid is not giving any impressions? That's not abnormal, unfortunately. It's not abnormal to not get impressions. And so what I would say is that raise your bids, test raising bids. A couple reasons why this could happen as well is you might have that particular search being triggered through another one and somewhere else in your ad structure for that product. So that could be another reason why. So if, for example, if that keyword is performing in, say, a phrase match and you go and you launch an exact match, it might take a while for that impressions to start shifting over to the exact match, which is fine and expected. Okay, so you can test that. I would honestly just test like increasing the bids here. Oftentimes, even if you're using a suggested bid, that doesn't necessarily mean that's a high enough or aggressive bid. The suggested bids are a good start, but you always need to optimize from there. There are other ways to do it, right? So anything that is going to increase your conversion rates will increase your ranking. Anything that increases the amount of orders that you're getting through that specific search will increase your ranking. That's why a lot of times sellers will do these things in tandem, like say testing coupons, potentially testing lower price point if you have the margins enough to be able to do that. If there's any sort of listing optimization that you've been putting off for a while. I also just today filmed, so expect it out within the next week or so, filmed a video on how to analyze your conversion rates versus your competition. There's some stuff going over the search query performance reports, how to use those to analyze. So if you're brand registered, I would keep a lookout on the YouTube channel. That's going to be helpful as far as like analyzing how is your conversion rate versus your competition. Best combination of map types for branded, generic, and competitor keyword targets. Yeah, I'm still a huge fan of using all the above. So we use exact match, phrase match, and broad match for pretty much all targets across the board. And now it does somewhat vary depending on the account budget and then what stage we're in, because you notice when I was talking about product launches, I recommended launching specifically an exact match and sticking to that for a while. So I do think that that is applicable. What I would say is that the more aggressive you want to target something, the more specific your match type should be. And that's not because there's anything wrong with phrase match or anything wrong with broad match. Everything has their place. The difference between those is when I am aggressive in exact match, I can be 100% confident that my spend is being allocated to that specific search term. If that decrease in ad impressions means less people are seeing your product through the ads, and then the sort of cumulative, the way that the ads influence organic ranking is if the ads sales are happening through that one specific search. That's why I talk about if you're going aggressive, go an exact match so you can influence the sales velocity through that one specific search. If both the organic and the advertising combined make a greater sales velocity on that one shopper search, then you will climb up in rankings. And that is exactly and precisely the reason why a lot of people will push their advertising, they'll see the organic ranking climb, and then they'll say, oh, this is unprofitable, and they'll cut their ads, and then their ranking decreases. And they're like, what gives? It's because those ad sales through that shopper search were adding to the cumulative or total sales that you are getting through that one shopper search. And without those additional ad sales, you do not have enough sales velocity to be able to push past your competitors. Business reports will tell you the sales that happen the day that that transaction is enacted. So if I go into, if I go to Amazon as a shopper right now, I want to purchase a product, bang, done, add to cart, ship it to me. That transaction is going to show up in that seller's business report as the day that I bought the product. However, if they go into their accounting section of their reports and they look at when they actually, when that accounting records the sale, they're probably not actually going to see that transaction until maybe a day later. And the reason why is because you don't actually get paid as a seller until that product ships. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ask Junglr. This is the time of the week where you can show up and get answers to your Amazon advertising questions. I'm super stoked, super excited. For those of you rejoining, welcome. We appreciate you being willing to sit here and listen to me yap about Amazon advertising for an hour. I always have a blast. Hopefully you guys do as well. And for those of you just joining in, I want to say a big welcome. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get a lot of value. I know a lot of people online are like, hey, I hope it adds value. It seems like it's like guru. It's one of those buzzwords. I'm like, I hate to use it, but I do hope it is valuable. I hope it's helpful. And so if this is your first time joining in, I want to do a quick intro to myself. So hey, my name is Elizabeth Greene. Yes, that is me on our website. I am one of the co-founders of our Amazon advertising agency called Junglr. We do a lot of really awesome stuff. One of them is having an amazing team who has seen it all, done it all, and still doing it when it comes to Amazon advertising. And so my goal with this broadcast is to be able to give you guys answers to your most pressing Amazon ad questions. I mean, I am auditing brands, our own internal brands, like because we do internal audits and we do internal discussions around strategy every single week, as well as auditing brands for sellers and consulting with brands. So again, I have a pulse, not because I'm amazing, but because I have an amazing team on what is going down right now. We actually have like an internal channel where everyone puts like updates to what's going on. Like we just had a post in there. There's new forecasting available in sponsored display ads. You can actually see like how many clicks you're expected to get at your current CPC when you put in a budget. Like that's pretty amazing. So Amazon is constantly rolling out like new tidbits and new things like that, which are awesome, but it is a lot to keep up with. And so hopefully with this broadcast, you guys are podcast, or whatever we call it, this live, you're able to keep up with the latest and greatest, not only like what's new, what's upcoming, but what is working in Amazon advertising today. With that being said, I just want to give you a quick format. So wherever you are listening in on, wherever you're streaming from, looks like we got people all over, and we have people on LinkedIn. We put this out on YouTube, which honestly, YouTube is a little bit easier to find the replays. We're putting this out on Facebook, also streaming on X, across all different platforms. Awesome. So we're already getting questions in the chat. Fantastic. So the goal of this is you can drop any and every Amazon advertising question you have, which by the way, if you are seeing and hearing me, can you give it a thumbs up or drop a link in the comment, or like drop something in the comments? Because I sometimes like my audio isn't correct. I honestly should. I'm constantly getting, all right, nope, it looks like I have the wrong audio. So let me, can I fix that mic? No, I don't think my microphone is not on, and I do not know how to fix that. That's fantastic. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know if there is a problem with the audio. Dang it. Looks like I don't have my nice mic. Okay, cool. So it looks like we already have a question in the chat. Again, if you are, I'm seeing thumbs up, at least people can see and hear me. Unfortunately, it sounds like the audio is not going to be fantastic for this one, because for some reason my amazing mic is not showing as available to hook up, which is dumb. Okay, but with that being said, feel free to drop whatever your Amazon advertising question is into the chat. We do screen shares. I put out a ton of different resources across like YouTube and Facebook, and we're constantly putting out lead magnets. Like I just put out like a 36-page document on our entire product launch strategy, like A to Z, like optimizations, everything. So if I have a resource that is going to be helpful for your question, I'll actually pull that up as well. So I'm excited to get into it. All right, looks like we're getting people on YouTube and on LinkedIn who are saying, hey, yeah, it is working. Thumbs up on Facebook. All right, awesome. I'm going to start diving into it. Again, if you have an Amazon ad question, feel free to drop it into the chat. But our first question is, on sponsored display ads, how long should I give the ads run before worrying about large spend without conversion to sales? Can you also explain how Amazon increases bids by 300% on sponsored display ads? You've touched on some great points. All right, so how do I want to go through this? Actually, in terms of this, I'm actually going to pull up that launch doc I told you about, because let's talk about how long should you wait to evaluate something, because that is a fantastic question. All right. And I took myself off. All right, let's go through and let's talk about evaluating the funnel. So basically what you want to do is I had a great conversation with somebody on LinkedIn just today, over the last couple of days, and we were talking about, okay, so what is constituted as like, quote, wasted ad spend, right? Because not everything that's getting clicks and not converting to orders can legitimately be considered waste. Like an example would be if you got like 1 click and 0 orders. Is that wasteful? Not really, because do we expect 100% conversion rate on our ads? No. So at what point does it become waste? And so here's how I would look at it. So when you're evaluating the shopper funnel, like the first thing is impressions. I'm seeing a question from Robert. I'm like, how do you overcome Amazon throttling your ads? Oh my gosh, I have tips for you when it comes to the optimization. So the first thing you have to do is just make sure that impressions are coming in. If you're getting enough impressions, then you should be leading, to a decent amount of clicks. You can evaluate the breakdown between clicks and impressions by your click-through rate. That's going to be the little bridge here. And then from clicks to orders. So on a reasonable expectation from clicks to orders, that's going to be your conversion rate. Now, in our experience, sponsored display ads typically have a lower conversion rate than sponsored product ads. That's just kind of baked in there. So what you'll actually want to do is just make sure that you have low enough bids. I mean, you touched on the 300% increase. Yes, that is a thing. So sometimes if you put high bids, they can get really crazy high. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not going to be hurting yourself here when it comes to orders. So really, when you focus in on it, like you want to calculate your conversion rate, which is your orders divided by clicks. That's going to give you how many clicks on average it takes you to convert to an order. So I don't know if you can see this text here, but it's like an example is if your conversion rate is 6.7%, you can expect about 15 clicks to generate an order. And so that would be a good evaluation to say like, okay, how long should I give the ads to run? And I wouldn't look at it on a campaign level. We always, whenever we're doing an evaluation, because oftentimes if you look at a campaign level, like there will be things in that campaign that are performing really well. And if you just pause that entire campaign, sometimes you can shoot yourself in the foot. So you definitely want to make sure you're looking at a targeting level to say, all right, am I good? So in this case, if I have like a 6.7%, if you had a 10% conversion rate, that equates to like 10 clicks. So you should know by 10 clicks, like, okay, I can start evaluating, right? And that's how I would look at it. The other thing that you can factor in here, now this is, I don't want to say it, like, takes a little bit more of an intuition, or also I would consider more, I don't want to say like high level strategy. Like the reason why people who've been doing advertising for a really long time, if they've really dug into it, why they tend to be better is like, it's just pattern recognition, right? So if I was going in and I'm evaluating my sponsored display ads, and let's say I'm waiting for 15 clicks, but I'm noticing that my cost per click is $1, and my product price point is like $25, then I would say, okay, so if my product price is $25 and I have $1 per click, well, I'm going to have to pay $15 probably. And if my product price is $25, well, that puts me at a 60% A cost. I don't really know if I could do that math. So I might start optimizing sooner. Now, I wouldn't pause it, but you might say, well, that's a little bit more than I can afford, and start to push bids down. Again, providing that you have enough data to be able to do that. I wouldn't start making those determinations off of like 2 clicks, but if I'm getting close to like 15, I'm like a 10, maybe even 8, I'm like, oh man, maybe I kind of overshot it in terms of what the cost per clicks are. But overall, if you're evaluating it, I would say look at these kind of metrics here. Now, in terms of what you're saying about, can explain how Amazon increased bids by 300% on sponsored display? Yes. I forget where it is in the documentation. I would have to go dig into it, but somewhere in Amazon's documentation, and I do keep some of those like saved because Amazon is like notorious for not updating anybody on what's going on and then only updating the documentation. So there's a couple pages that I keep bookmarked. But what happens in sponsored display ads is Amazon inherently, and the most frustrating thing I find about this is that you can't turn it off, is that Amazon has the ability to do a dynamic up and down bidding in sponsored display ads. So even if you put like 50 cents, they have the ability to like say 3x that, so have a 300% increase both up and down on that bid. You can't turn it off. Now, I did talk to the internal development team on sponsored display team, and I was able to ask them about this. I was like, hey, so you guys have this like dynamic thing. Is there any way to turn it off? And what they told me is that it won't completely get eliminated, but there is a higher probability of the sponsored display dynamic up and down bidding triggering if you are using optimize for conversions. And they said it's not going to completely turn it off, but it, at least when I talked to them, and this was a while ago, there was less of a probability of it triggering if you use optimize for page views, which seems completely counterintuitive, right? You're like, oh, why would I optimize for views and not conversions? So, but because we know that, I would recommend testing. If you're having a problem with your cost per clicks being really high, even if you put low bids, I would test optimizing for page views. Also, you used to be able to change the bidding strategy inside of the ad console. They used to have, now if you're using a VCPM sponsored display campaign, you cannot change it to a cost per click. But if it is already a cost per click campaign, meaning you're doing optimized for page views or optimized for conversions, you can switch those. You used to be able to do it in the interface, but they took that button away. But I did check, and if you know how to use a bulk file, you can hijack the system and you can still change your bidding strategy if you want to. And if anyone wants to know how to hijack and do that, it's a little bit technical, but I can absolutely make a video or show you guys how to do that. It's not that difficult. Robert is asking, how do you overcome Amazon throttling back ads? Oh, yes, it is. Gosh, it's so difficult. It's really annoying. So let me pull up this isn't launch strategy, but it seems like there's so many good tactics in this, which by the way, if you want the link to get this, it's completely free. I have it on all social channels. Feel free to just like message me. Or I can maybe drop a link in the comments. But that is our bid and budgets. So let's see, not the budgets. Where do I have it? There's a lot of information here. All right, so budgets and bidding. This is our optimization. So this is the optimization phase, and we call it our Kickstart optimization method. So the way in which we do this, because yes, Amazon does seem to throttle your ads when you first launch them. Historically, like you were able to just like throw up an ad, especially if it was like an auto campaign, and Amazon would like instantly take your money and you'd be off to the races. These days, it feels like a struggle to get Amazon to even to serve you impressions or take your money. It's like ridiculous. You're like, Amazon, I am willing to spend. Please give me impressions. And they're like, we'll think about it. And so this is a way to basically force the algorithm to be like, no, please give me impressions. Two things here. One, this will cause you to go aggressive with your bids. Just know that. So to circumvent this, what we actually do is when we do starting budgets, we will actually start with a more limited budget of like $10 to $15, sometimes $20. Again, it depends on how many clicks you need to be able to get. What that allows us to do is do this like aggressive bidding strategy or like optimization strategy without having to worry about like all of a sudden we're going to log in and spend like $100, right? Your budgets may run out, and that's fine because you're in like the testing phase. There's a whole like budget scaling thing here and here as well. All right, here's what you do. Super simple, really time intensive. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into the ad console every single day, maybe twice a day, and you're simply going to look and say, are my new campaigns getting impressions? If they are getting impressions, fantastic. Then you can wait for the impressions to roll in and you can get clicks. If they are not getting impressions, then you're going to increase the bid. How much are you going to increase your bid? You're going to increase your bid by 20 to 50 cents. If you want to go more conservative here, you could do 5 to 10. Or if your current bid is below the new suggested bid, because suggested bids may change sometimes, then you can increase your bid to the suggested bid, and you basically just continuously run that playbook. Yes, you will be checking and you will be adjusting your account daily. I know that's really hard if you're a brand manager or a brand owner and there's so many other things for you to do. All we do is ads, and we also create systems that allow our account managers to like have time to do this because it's really time intensive. But if you want to jumpstart the algorithm, that's how you do it. So hopefully that was helpful. All right. I am new to sponsored display. What audience should I target initially? That is a fantastic question. I would use your sponsored product ads to determine what you should go after first. In our experience, if you are performing really well in sponsored product ASIN targeting, then that is where we start with sponsored display ads. And I would use ASIN targeting, and if you're performing well in category targeting, I would target that first. Now, if you're not performing well, and actually, you know what? I have a video for you. Let me find it. Because I go over. All right, here you go. You want the video? It's literally looks like you're watching on YouTube. So let me give this to you. How to run sponsored display ads on Amazon to maximize profits. This is literally like step by step walking through the ad console. I go over like how I was talking about what bidding strategy to use, what settings to use, all the above. I'm going to drop it in the chat, which by the way, apologies if you're watching it on LinkedIn. I can't drop things in the chat over there, unfortunately. So like reach out to me, send me a message. I'll get this to you. But so one, Joey, I would watch this. But then two, I would look at your sponsored product ads and say like, hey, what is working really well? If you want to run retargeting ads with sponsored display, one, I would say like those are oftentimes a hit or miss. Like sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But then two, what you want to do is look at your brand analytics to determine there's new, like if you're brand registered, which if you have access to sponsored display, you are, there's new analytics inside of the brand analytics to say like where to like what is the biggest time frame for your repeat purchases. I would go in there because you might say like, oh, wow, we get the most of our repeat purchases happen within 30-day window, which in 7-day window. And then you can take that because when you run either views look back or purchases look back. So if you have a one-off product, like it's not a reoccurring purchase, then I would look at views look back. So who has seen my product and then hasn't purchased it. But if you have a reoccurring purchase product, so if you have like a supplement product, you know, like if you're doing food, like CPG brands, I'm trying to think what other ones have a lot of reoccurring, like there's certain like consumable items and those kind of things that there's definitely a repeat purchase aspect, then I would do purchases remarketing. And if you're a little bit uncertain, you can test both. But fantastic question. I'm just saying happy Thursday to you as well. Hopefully all of you guys are feeling good. Okay, good. Joey has asked about contextual remarketing and marketing lifestyle. Yeah, so in our experience, audience targeting inside of sponsored display ads, just like, I honestly, I would just forget that one. That one, I don't know if I've ever seen it work, and like half the time we get no impressions. If you really want to target audiences, you really need, oh my gosh, getting access to AMC, which again, we're an agency. We were part of the advertising partner network. So we were able to get access to AMC. So we're using that for our clients. Unfortunately, like if you're a seller, you have to go through a service provider to get access to it. Unfortunately, that's the way that Amazon's done it. So if you want to get into like audiences and stuff, like AMC with sponsored product ads, like those are beautiful marriage. They've been working fan-freaking-tastic. So I would just leave out audiences and sponsor display. Contextual, I would say test it. It's been a hit or miss for us. ASIN targeting, if you're validating like, hey, ASIN targeting works fantastic for you in sponsored product ads, just roll that puppy out to sponsor brand or sponsor display, call it a day. In terms of the remarketing, I would say, again, if you have a good repeat purchase product, then repeat, purchases, look back windows will probably work well for you. Validate the time frames of that with your brand analytics. That's going to give you like, oh, like what look back window should I do? In terms of views look back, you can look at, again, that might be just one to test. And then I would always test multiple date ranges. Like I just audited a brand. It is very rare for me to find a brand who is doing sponsored display ads and looking at like targeting multiple look back windows. So like last 7 days, last 14 days, last 30 days, they do 90 days. And I forget, I think it's like 100, or maybe that's all there is. Anyway, so I was able to like look at their data and be like, oh, look, your best conversions is on 7-day and 90-day. Like that's where you convert best. So like pause the other ones, just go double down there, right? But you can't find that out if you are not looking at like multiple look back windows. So I would say the biggest thing, if you are testing the views remarketing or purchases remarketing, is like test different look back windows and then just like evaluate which of these perform best, and then you can just pause the other ones and double down on the ones. So make sure you're testing it fully. All right, Ashley's asking, if your ACoS for a target is high, should you continue to reduce your bid even if you're already lower than the CPC? Same with the low ACoS, should I increase bids if it is already higher than the CPC? Just a fantastic question. So this gets into bid optimization. Honestly, drop a like in the comments or drop me a comment, because so your friend's saying like, please make a video for manipulating bids. I wrote our big algorithm, by the way. Like I spent 4 years developing it. It was intense. I know bid optimizations backwards and forwards and sideways, and it is a beast. I would love to be able to like just carve out the time and sit down and like create a playbook on bid optimizations, because I think that would be next level. So drop a like or a comment. Let me know, because I try and do things that other people would find valuable. Like I think that's valuable, but I don't know. So definitely let me know. All right. So when it comes to ACoS, what you need to be aware of, there is only 4 buckets that bids ever fall into. There's 4 buckets and there's 2 things that you do. So those 4 buckets are high ACoS, low ACoS, clicks with no sales, and lower no impressions. Those are the 4 buckets that a keyword or a target or whatever it is will be falling into. There's only 2 things that you do. The 2 things that you do is you increase the bid or you decrease the bid. That's it. Like it's as simple as that. The complexity comes in. So what the 2 buckets that you will decrease bids on are high ACoS and clicks with no sales. The 2 buckets that you will increase bids on, or maybe increase bids on, are going to be the low ACoS and the lower no impressions. Okay? So you're asking about those 2 buckets, high ACoS, low ACoS. The one thing that you need to be careful of, and I only know this because I have burned myself so hard in the beginning when I was getting started. Little naive me. I was like, oh, this is high ACoS. I must aggressively lower the bids because there's a lot of spend here and it's not profitable. And then I went in the next day to the account and I'm like, why did the ACoS get higher and why are my sales gone? And that was because oftentimes a lot of the high ACoS keywords are the ones that are driving a lot of order velocity for you, and those are the ones that like all your sales are coming from and your ranking is being sustained on. So for the high ACoS keyword targets, what I would say is you want to be very selective and very careful with how you are going to lower. And so the way in which we think about it is we will bucket our ranking targets. We will put these in specific campaigns, or in our bid optimization like settings, we can set like on a keyword level or a campaign level or whatever level we want to set it at to be very, very selective with how we're going to adjust. So I would say you can adjust down, but I would never adjust. Like either you say like, oh, there's a floor here. Like I'm never gonna lower the bids like below the average CPC, or I'm never gonna lower the bids past, like in some of our accounts, how much you lower it is really sensitive. Like within 5 cents is super sensitive, both up and down. So we will create like very incremental rules to say like, oh, we're only gonna move these select keywords, you know, within the bounds of like say 5 or 10 cents every single time. Now, in terms of increasing things, here's what I would think about it. It's also tiers. So if it is an exact match keyword, if we have a high conversion rate on it, and it is a main keyword and we have low ACoS, let that puppy fly. Like let's double, triple maximize down on this, because like, again, where we're going to be putting our ad spend, our return on investment for this, like we're going to get a lot of bang for our buck here. But let's say it's a low bid broad match campaign, right? We might be getting great ACoS, but a couple of factors here. One, our strategy is low bid. So we don't necessarily want to just completely uncap it. We want to be intentional with keeping that strategy the same. And then the second thing that we want to be careful of is, because there's a tendency to trigger a ton of different search through that broad match, because it's a broad match, the amount of searches that you could potentially trigger, like say if you took something from 20 cents to $2, like can you imagine the amount of searches and like the amount of ad spend that's going to explode through that broad match? Like you need to be very careful. So that's the way in which we think about it. It's like, what is the strategy of the campaign? How much is it going to help or hurt me if I go more aggressive with how much I'm either increasing or decreasing? But really at the end of the day, it's increase and decrease, and then just make sure you pay attention to the buckets. All right. So you're saying, thank you, please make a video for manipulating bits. Sounds like I should absolutely do that. So I'm definitely that one's gonna take me a little bit to put together, but definitely. All right, so link to the handbook. Let me see if I can grab that real quick. If I can find it, I think it's in our team chat somewhere. All right, let me copy link address. All right, I'm gonna post a link to grab that in the comments. Again, sorry if you are watching on LinkedIn, you'll definitely have to like message me so I can get you that link. All right, can you show that a product new? What types of campaigns we create? What type of match types? What types of placements we use? How much we give optimized data after creation? All right, one, get the playbook. It's gonna tell you everything you could possibly want to know about launches. Trust me. And so let me go over it. All right, let me go over it asking your questions. All right, so what kinds of campaigns are we launching? You're pulling, let's see, this goes over keyword research and all that. All right, so your campaign setup, you are going to use single keyword exact match campaigns. You are going to set more aggressive bids, and then you're going to limit the budgets. I'm not sure if you were here earlier about talking about intentionally limiting budgets so you can go more aggressive with your bid optimizations and testing, but that's what you do. I also go through over product variations. So if you have one child variation, you're going to use it across all the campaigns. If you have multiple variations, if it's a brand new product, you can use all the variations in an ad group initially. But if you already have some performance data from like organic or past ads, I would use the highest converting variant or whatever variant it matches the keyword intent. Example is if the keyword is blue swaddle blanket, I would only ever advertise the blue one because you want to connect relevancy to the product. From there, we go over campaign naming, which doesn't really matter as much, but I think it is helpful. And then what we'll do, so we use sponsored products. You're going to do manual keyword targeting, exact match only, one ad group per campaign, one keyword per campaign to start. Now, here's where a lot of people get tripped up is they're like, okay, so I launched an exact match. You don't ever stay in exact match. This is getting to the starting line and starting to feel out your market. That's the goal here. This is not the end all be all. I'm not a fan of like everything in exact match and only going super, like, no, actually long term, that's going to come back to bite you. You want to start with scaling campaigns, which are in this doc, by the way. There's scaling campaigns in here. But you want to do that. I would do a strategy. We use a fixed bid strategy in the beginning. Here's a controversial one, but I'm telling you, this is true, don't use placement percentages in the beginning. I know a lot of people out there are going to disagree with me. What I've seen time and time again, that your bid is the main thing that pushes you out into the algorithm. If you are trying to make up for a lower bid by just like jacking up your placements, you're actually going to be sacrificing impressions to do that strategy. So don't do that. Again, you're starting bids, use the suggested bids or the suggested bids, adding like 20 to 50 cents to them. Start your budget $10 to $15, or I'd say high enough to test if the keyword converts. So an example is if it takes on average 15 clicks for you to generate an order, you have a 75 bid, 75 cents multiplied by 15 is $11.25. So I'd probably put an initial starting budget of like $15 just to give you a starting point. Again, what if your budget runs out? Everybody's going to ask this question. Trust me, I have case studies to prove, even in the supplements category, by the way, that like we like got 40%. I asked my account manager, which honestly, my account managers are smarter than me at this point. I was like, what did you do? Because he grew the sales by 40%, dropped ACoS and total ACoS by 40 and 35 points in like 2 weeks. And I was like, bro, what the heck did you do? And he was like, oh, it was mainly, but like he did other optimizations, obviously, went through the account top to bottom, but like he said it was a lot of budget optimizations, which by the way, the agency that we signed them from is a great agency. Honestly, I'm really good friends with the founder, but they don't believe in budget optimizations. And like, I'm a believer. The results speak for themselves, which by the way, if anybody wants like budget optimization playbook, maybe I need to talk to my team and create that too. Cause like, trust me, it's going to freak you out. Budgets will run out, but trust me, it freaking works. Budgets are like one of the best levers for spend control. Everybody talks about bids to control spend. Bids are great to control spend on a keyword level. They suck to control spend at an account level. I will say that again. Optimizing your bids and not optimizing budgets, you are leaving out one of the biggest spend lever controls at your disposal. All right, what do we use? Placements, we went over that. How much do we optimize PPC after data creation? Yeah, I definitely get this guide. Reach out to me if you don't have access to it, because I go through what we call our Kickstart optimization. So you're gonna have to go pretty intense. You basically just increase bids daily until you start reaching 1,000 impressions over the lifetime of the campaign, just to make sure that you can get impressions at all. And then from there, you start to wait till the clicks roll in, and then you look at how many clicks on average it takes to convert to an order. So it's not like a time frame. It's a matter of data accumulation is what I would say. All right, in a campaign targeting one keyword, impressions have been steady for a week, then suddenly there was a big spike. Nothing happened in the market to drive this, no holiday sales, etc. Do you know what could have happened? Yes. I'm going to tell you how to figure it out. This is so intriguing. I love these things. Okay, so what you want to do, and I need to make a video about this as well. Honestly, I was just on a coaching call. I literally, like, somebody messaged me because we put out a newsletter weekly, by the way, if nobody knows. And somebody messaged me like, oh my gosh, I just released something about this in the newsletter. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with the same thing. I was like, can you figure it out? He's like, no. And I was like, I literally watched him like 45 minutes through like exactly how to do this on his account. So if anybody ever needs help, just like message me. So what I would do is I would find the point of change. You want to find the point of change, like which day did it happen? So you said it's been steady for a few weeks suddenly. So what was the day that things changed? And then you want to count forward. So like how many days has it been since that changed? And then you basically take the two same date ranges before and after. So if it's one keyword and impressions, like I don't know if it's an exact match, but what you want to do is you want to like have two windows up, one with the before and one with the after, and you're just going to start looking at what changed. So I would look at placements here, especially if it's an exact match campaign. I want to know, like, all of a sudden, did we start showing top of search and we never showed top of search before? All of a sudden, did our cost per clicks increase? Like maybe, this keyword got picked up. All of a sudden, so I would look at placements. I would look at the cost per clicks. I would look at conversion rates. I would look at click-through rates. and just see like, whoa, was there something that changed? And then I would also look at the history tab as well to see like, did I make any changes? Because sometimes we make changes that we forget about. And then if it is a phrase or a broad match or anything that has search terms, I would go and look at the search term tab. Even in the exact match campaigns, you can pull, say, like plural variations or like of and like the little those kind of things. It will actually have like some variations of search. Now you can't add negatives to it and you can't really control it, but it might be helpful to like. An example would be if all of a sudden your exact match campaign started picking up the plural variation of the search, and that kind of like boosted you up in terms of impressions. So I would again, point of change, same date ranges, compare, start going through all of the potential factors, placement percentages, bid adjustments, cost per clicks, conversion rates, click-through rates, and then you'd be like, oh, what changed? Like this exact method, we had one of our accounts where it was like all of a sudden something like sales drop for it. And we were literally able to backtrack the issue to one single negative that got added in a campaign, and we removed it and everything like was golden. So it's like this sort of evaluation method, gold for figuring out what's going on in an account. I would highly recommend. Joy's asking, for my kids' book listing, I have a product targeting for my top 50 to 100 competitors. This helps a lot with organic placement, i.e. carousel. Would you use this tactic in other categories as well? Goal being to increase organic placement. Yes. Oh my gosh, I would totally. So I have a video that I just put out today, and I also is in here. So we talk about scaling campaigns. So I was saying like you start off an exact match, but honestly, we call that our rank hijack strategy, which I just put out a video about that today. So if you want to see me walk you through it, if you go, oops, I don't want to click on the video. If you go into our YouTube video, you'll see the rank hijack strategy that essentially goes through exactly how to do this. But what we have found is that if you target the top ranked competitors on a specific search page, or again, just your top competitors, and you're able to get conversions off of them, for some reason, Amazon sort of like looks at what they're indexed for and gives you credit for that. Now, just that strategy alone is not going to be enough to rank the product. So you need to do that in tandem with keyword strategy, but it definitely is something that I would absolutely recommend. Ashley, how do you go about growing a product that must be profitable from launch with low break-even targeting ACoS? Can you even try to rank? Should you try to get cheap clicks where you can? Yes. Oh gosh, this is the hardest thing ever. So if you absolutely must be profitable off the get, let me show you. Because you can actually forecast what ACoS you need to get something, which by the way, I have this as a tool as well. If anyone wants access to this, let me know. And let me pull this down so I can show you. All right, what you need to figure out is what does your CPC need to be to hit your profit goal strategy. So basically, we have in here, this is like basically what kind of ad set percentage and ACoS you need to reach your total ACoS target. I would totally recommend looking at that as well. But I would look at the ACoS forecast model. So what you would have to do is you would put in, let's say the product price was $25, your average conversion rate is 5, and your average CPC or what you're seeing in the account is like $1. That's going to put you at 80% ACoS. So most likely, and let's be less pessimistic. Honestly, although when I'm forecasting anything, be pessimistic. Don't kid yourself. Don't be like, my product's gonna convert at 25%. Like put in 10. Make it like worst case scenario, and then all you're gonna do is be pleasantly surprised. And so like let's say that this is your scenario when you're like, ah crap, and that's an ACoS of 40% forecasted. I don't think I can afford that. And so what you would recommend, what I would do is just, you can forecast it out. You're like, okay, so my break even or my profitability target is 25%, which means my CPC needs to be at 63 cents, or I need a conversion rate of 16. So probably work on your conversion rate for your product, but then you know what your CPC needs to be. So if your average CPC in your account is 63 cents, your average conversion rate is 10% and, product price being what it is, then you will hit 25% ACoS. So your goal in this launch is to find places that you can get orders for an average CPC of 6 to 3%, and then also still maintain a 10% conversion rate. And you can go more pessimistic, like, man, what if it was 7? All right, I need 44. So that means a lot of times you plug stuff into this scenario and you're like, gosh darn it, I'm going to have to achieve a 33-cent CPC in a category where the averages are like 75 cents. I'm going to have to go a little bit broad strategy. So what you're going to need to do, this is rough because you will have to set expectations that, like, we're not going to have an incredible blowing up sales, rank all the places strategy. You can't afford that. So really in these cases, it's about setting expectations. I mean, if this is your account, then you set your own expectations, right? But you're just going to need to kind of figure it out because you're not going to get as many impressions. So you're probably going to have to use like low bid auto campaigns, broad match campaigns, category targeting. Contextual targeting is working really well. If you have access to AMC, we've seen some really good results with like AMC campaigns and autos. So I would just kind of like, okay, where can I get low cost traffic from at this average CPC? And then eventually maybe you can work up to sort of a ranking strategy. So an example of this would be is like, all right, let's say I have to, let's say I'm like, well, I could get away with a 40% ACoS that puts me at a 70-cent CPC. So maybe I can get more aggressive. And then if we have a 40% ACoS and we say, well, I need to be able to get down to a 10% total ACoS goal. Man, that's a target ad sale percentage of 10%. That may or may not work, but maybe we say, okay, I need 12% total ACoS to be profitable. And then can I get to an ad sale percentage of 30%? Maybe, maybe not. That's pretty aggressive. And then so you just start playing with the model and figuring out, like, where does my market share need to be to offset my ad cost? And that's kind of the scenario how you can have growth and profitability at the same time, is balancing market share and ad efficiency. But given kind of, it depends on what you mean by profitable. If you have really strong profit margins, you have more room to play with. If you are really low profit margins, then there's less room. And so you basically have to adjust from there. All right, hopefully this has been good. Looks like we still got people watching in. Ashley, that was a fantastic question. Yeah, definitely would recommend the cheap clicks. Like, depending what profitability is, but you can run that forecast and just see like what is the average CPC you need to be to hit what I need to in terms of profitability. And then if you can afford a CPC that is, kind of aggressive enough for you to test some ranking strategies, then I say maybe go for it. If the CPC is way too low, then I would do like the low cost click strategy growth session. All right, looks like I've powered through all the questions. I was worried I was taking way too long, but if anyone else has another Amazon ad question, I technically have another 10 to 15 minutes to chill out here. So I'll definitely make sure to answer any other Amazon ad questions that come in the chat. Hopefully my mic is still working, by the way. Let me know if you can still see or hear me, because sometimes things cut out. I want to make sure I'm not cutting out on any of the channels. But other than that, which, by the way, if you would like access to this product launch strategy, I would highly recommend going and getting it at the link. Hopefully it's helpful. This is our exact launch strategy that we're using. You can go to junglr.com/A to Z product launch. And this, you'll find a way to get this delivered to your inbox. This is 100%, by the way, I did not come up with this strategy. I wish I did, because it's amazing. But it's one of my top account managers. She was doing a ton of really aggressive launches and like really super dialed in our product launch strategy. And so I basically, whenever that happens, I basically go to the team, like, what are you guys doing? How are you getting results? Tell me. And then hopefully they're not too mad at me. And then I just like give it away to everybody for free in hopes that it's useful. So this is definitely a battle trusted strategy, one that we've been running. We developed it, I want to say it's like toward the end of 2024. We were testing it lightly and then went all in the beginning of 2025. And trust me, it is crushing it. Doing some really amazing things with some product launches, even in like say like supplements category or other more competitive categories. And it has been phenomenal. So, by the way, if anyone has another Amazon ad question, again, reset here, but feel free to drop the question in the chat. Joey's got another one. Let's pull it up and get going. If there are multiple long-running product targeting campaigns that can be combined with phishing, would you be risky? It means the data gets reset. Yes, I would not touch anything if it is working. That is what I would say. As much as I absolutely abhor that that is something that happens on the Amazon advertising platform, I freaking wish that you had the ability to go in and completely restructure a campaign and not have it run anything. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've seen it not work often enough and been burned often enough by trying to restructure something that I would say if it is working, don't touch it and move around it. So an example is like there are some times where we have we'll identify like an exact match target or something. We're like, oh, we really want to isolate this in its own campaign, but it's performing really well here. We will never pause it in the existing. I know that means that we'll have 2 campaigns running in tandem. What we do is we'll launch it in its new own like single keyword exact match campaign. And then we'll keep those 2 things running in tandem just to make sure that we can like start to get impressions from that other campaign, and then maybe start to lower the bids in the other campaign and then like switch over impressions. So if you wanted to isolate some things, I could say you could start like building out those additional campaigns. I know there will be overlap, but just see if you can start to like get that. But yeah, I would say I wouldn't do it. If you're worried about efficiency, I'm assuming, do you mean efficiency in terms of like optimizing, or are you talking about efficiency as in like it would be more efficient if they were grouped? Because in our experience, you tend to get more granular control if things are split out. So Joey's saying in terms of clean data. Good point. Bulk, if you're familiar with bulk files are amazing, or any sort of analysis you can do. I'd be interested to know what you mean by clean data, because there might be something I can release or build that may help with that. But yeah, I would say if they are working, keep them. And then you can test combining them and seeing if that does anything. But otherwise, I would, if it's working, if it ain't broke, unfortunately, try not to fix it, which means for us, there are some existing campaigns. Yeah, Joe's saying, I guess bulk does help. Yeah, bulk files, pivot tables, those kind of analysis. Yeah, it can be really helpful. But yeah, it doesn't mean data cleaning, but I don't know. I'm maybe strange in that I find data cleaning fun. Like, it's honestly, spreadsheets on a weekend, my favorite thing. Joey's saying super helpful. How about a campaign that isn't working, but should? Let's say it's a keyword oddly not working. Where would you start over? Oh, I hate when that happens. What do we do? One, it depends. So I would say, when you say should be working, like if this is a ranking keyword, like, oh my goodness, we really want to try and push ranking on this, we would analyze using like search query performance reports to say like, hey, what is our conversion rate versus the market? What is our click rate versus the market? Just to determine like if it's an overall issue with the product, or it's an overall issue with like the ads specifically. I will say that is not uncommon if you find something that performs well in search term reports and you try and put it into a manual campaign and like it doesn't really perform as well and there's that whole shaky bit, like that totally does happen. I would say there's a couple things that you can do is one, look at your cost per clicks or like your bid versus your that it also depends on what you mean by not works. I'm assuming not works mean not converting. So if it's an exact match keyword, I would say you could look at your conversion rates, like where you're showing up in terms of your placements. You could also look at your bidding strategies. Sometimes if you use, say, like dynamic down only or fixed bids or something, that can be kind of helpful to just kind of change how the algorithm is going to view your bid and which auctions they're going to show you in. If it is a broader targeting keyword, so like broad match, phrase match, auto campaigns, category targeting, I would definitely take a look at the search terms because sometimes if there's like a search term that is snuck in that is not converting and driving down performance, you could just like eliminate that with a negative and then ideally it starts performing. What else? Honestly, that's one of the weird, obnoxious nuances of the Amazon platform. Like there are some pay-per-click platforms where it's like you can just copy it. And it's like as long as it works in one place, it will always work the other place. And then in terms of Amazon ads, that's not the case. Like if it's working, don't move it. And sometimes even when it should work, it doesn't. I would say sometimes we will wait and try launching that again. Sometimes it doesn't always work. A little more advanced, but you can try testing it in like an existing campaign that does have good performance. Sometimes that's enough to jumpstart it. And then sometimes you're just banging your head against the wall and it's the most obnoxious thing ever. From a children's book, I want to penetrate the toy gifting category as well, but cannot get impressions. What's the best way to penetrate new category? Ooh, fantastic question. So I would say low bid broad, low bid phrase match, or even high bid broad tends to work the best in giftable categories. Now, the other thing that I would say is you want to see about finding like long tail gifting keywords that apply to your specific product. I don't even know if I can find it. I had a post on LinkedIn that I put out specifically about gifting keywords. But I would say, so if it's like what do I say? Like, I can't even think of a good long tail variation search at this moment, but I would say like gift for 5-year-old book or something like that, right? So it's technically like giftable, but it's also tacking on your specific product. And that tends to be the best way to try broad Amazon went too liberal. Back to my category target. Yeah. All right. So then I would say test phrase match, because phrase match, if the word is short enough, it will give you the long tail variations, but it won't sometimes it won't go off the deep end. So I would look at that, but then I would also look at the specific long tail variations that contain more relevancy to your product can often be very helpful. And then the other thing that sometimes we find, actually I found it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna see if I can pull up this post. The other thing that you can look at is product targeting. Sometimes works really well. Yeah, so I like here's literally a post I put on stuck trying to increase sales on, I'm talking about giftable products here, but the same thing applies. Specific keywords. So let's see. So you want to get specific. So instead of like gifts for her, like personalized leather tote or monogram handbag, like anything. In your case, you're trying to broaden and go giftable. So I would say like, is there any keyword research like stuff that you can find that kind of contains more specific product information? Again, broad keywords, you're saying that doesn't work as well. You could try to modify broad. So if you found like that more specific giftable search to your product, you can try like a plus symbol. That might work. One thing that we found is oftentimes on giftable searches, just ranking on page 2 can be valuable, because a lot of times shoppers will kind of go deeper into the category to like try and find exactly what they're looking for. So a little bit more browse heavy keywords is not bad to try and go after. And then again, yeah, just keep an eye on. So the one thing that I would say is Oftentimes ACoS may be higher, but the question is, how is the product doing overall in terms of total ACoS? So like if ACoS is higher, but you're pushing into a market that you've never been in before and you're starting to generate sales there, you should see sales increase. Now it wouldn't be immediate. It would be over the span of like 1 to 2 weeks to a month. But that might be something to, again, if the account is in a position to do it, you can test like, okay, I know that I'm going to spend X amount of dollars on this strategy and it may be at a loss, but then you're looking at your ranking, you're looking at the total ACoS for your product, you're looking at the total sales for your product, and you're saying, even though this part of my ad account is unprofitable, is it leading to greater profits overall, if that makes sense? So just to give an example, it's a STEM book. I want to target STEM toys. Product targeting campaign gets 0 impressions. High as a bit. Yeah. Try like any sort of adjacent. The problem you're running into is that Amazon is not finding relevancy from your product to those shopper searches. So a couple things. One, try and see if you have any of those category keywords in your back end. I would put those in the back end of your listing because you might not want to put those in your listing, or you could put them in your listing, but the ad algorithm actually will check for back end keywords. So I would say, one, make sure your SEO is adjusted to try and push some relevancy there. The second thing is, again, I would look for a long tail, so like STEM books. So I would say like STEM gifts for like whatever the age range is, or, like those are the kind of long tail variations I would look at, because that may be easier because it's not doing toy, because Amazon is looking at your product and like, it's not a toy. So if you can kind of like try and segue yourself in there, that might be helpful. The other thing is you can try and do product targeting on like those long tail variation keywords to try and like, basically what you need to do is try and get your foot in the door and just try and start getting clicks and sales for any sort of adjacent segment of that market, or like you basically got to get a toe in the door. So I would say, one, check your SEO. Two, just try every single way to try and get at that specific market. And then hopefully the algorithm will make the determination that, oh, this product is relevant. And then you should start to see those impressions pick up. But that can be difficult. So the main thing I would say is check your SEO. And with that, I do believe we are at time. There's been some fantastic questions today. This has been amazing. I really appreciate everyone joining in. This is made for a stellar conversation. Brandon is asking a question about SEO. I am not as much of a, all right, let's see. Any negative impact if you have more than 5 bullets? From my understanding, I believe 5 bullets is good. You don't want to like keyword stuff. So Amazon will devalue you if you're keyword stuffing. So don't try and do that. Although I would say the bullet points are more for robots, especially after you go like lower in the bullet points. Bullet points are for robots, not for humans. But don't keyword stuff is what I would say. And also read your category guidelines for your products. So with that, I appreciate it. By the way, if anybody wants, I shared something or a lead magnet or a tool or mentioned something, feel free to reach out to me on whatever social platform you're on. More than happy to. And if you have an Amazon ads account that you're like banging your head against the wall, like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what to do, I need some strategy help, feel free to reach out to us on our website, Junglr.com. We are more than happy to do an ad audit for you. Basically, our goal of the ad audit is for you to be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yes, please do it for me. Shut up and take my money. But I promise I'm not going to hard sell you. And I'd be more than happy to help look over your account, give you some answers. And if it does make sense to work together, we can talk about that. And so with that, I am going to be back here next week, same time, same place. So if this has been valuable, I will hope to see you in the next one, and see you all. And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, If you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay hungry.